Welcome to part 5 of the Gilera Runner restoration project. As you can see over my right shoulder, I've got the strip down 180, did that last night, so that's ready to be pillaged of all the parts that we need. I also finished off doing the braking system on the bike yesterday, so we've got front and rear brakes now. Everything's all good to go. And today, what we got on the list today, fuel tank, clean it out, inside and outside. Nice clean up, flush out any old stuff, and it's pretty bone dry, but God knows what's the inside's like. Anyways, so clean that out. We'll get all the fuel lines off of the 180 onto the 200, so we get the fuel system all connected back up. Going to take the carby off. I think I'll probably do that first, because that'll involve doing all the lines. So much point putting the lines on, taking the carby off. So we'll take the carby off, clean the carby out, get the tank sorted, fit all the lines up, and then I guess we'll throw the battery on and see if we can get her to fire up. Actually, I'll probably rob the spark plug out of the 180. The spark plug was new not long ago, as was the starter motor, so we'll probably take them off as well, just to keep us, use the spark plug and keep that as spares. Yeah, so let's get on with it. Let's get into this. Let's get into the car. We're going to start off by undoing these, and we'll take the intake boots off. And look, just to show you why we're changing all the lines. You hear that? It won't even come out, but that is like pasta. That's the main fuel line going to the carby. So yeah, that's why we're changing them all, because they are knackered. Next up, we're going to take a 8mm, undo this and remove the throttle cable. Next up, removing the auto choke. So I've just pulled this sleeve back to reveal the connector, which is this red one. Disconnected that. Sorry, it just zooms. Yep, so the red connector, what's in this sleeve, and that's the auto choke. So next up, we'll just be taking off any lines that are left connected. A lot of these have broken and perished. So anything that's still connected, we'll take them off, and that should get the carb out. That's the carby removed. I've just chucked some rag in the intake boot, and I'm going to give this a little blowout. As you can see, there's loads of dirt and dust in there. Right, now onto the carb. So you've got 4 brass screws here, and that will allow you to remove the bowl, which is surprisingly clean, so that's good. And then you'll have a little rod which runs through here. This one didn't want to come out, I just had to knock it out with a pin, which means I can pull out the float and the pilot jet, and then we'll have the needle, the main, and we can just unscrew these, take them out, and we'll get the airline through them just to make sure there's nothing in there. It literally only takes a grain of sand to block these, so we'll blow them all out with the airline. So now I've got all the jets out, I'm just going to do a quick inspection of the diaphragm. So that's another 4 screws on top here. So you'll have a spring in the middle, a little plastic seat. Diaphragm, you'll have the slide and the needle, which could do with a little bit of a clean up. So I'll give that a clean. I'll give all that a clean out as well. See this, look at this. That's what we don't want. That looks to me, that's air filter. So yeah, take that all out, put it somewhere safe where you've got everything, and now we'll just give that a clean up and a blow down with the airline. Start off with the needle, the slide and the diaphragm. There's only one way this can go back in. So let me line up that needle and then I'll get that in. That's all the jets cleaned up. If you want to be a bit more thorough, or extra thorough, get yourself a small piece of wire, and just make sure all the little holes are cleaned out on the jets. Don't neglect the needle valve, because it's very important that you clean that, because you don't want the carb to keep flooding. It just takes the tiniest piece of grit to keep that open, and that will just keep flooding. So don't miss that one out. I'll put it back onto the float, and then we'll get these jets back in. So we'll get your pilot goes in there into this hole, and then we got the main which goes into this one. What size is that? 7mm, is it? Yep, 7mm. Tighten that up with a 7, and then not to forget, this goes in the top. That's the little one. So I'm going to tighten them up, and then we'll get the float in. Needle valves back on the float. Drop it into the little hole, and then we'll take the pin, which is here, and that slides back through there. I'll have to do this off camera because I've only got one hand. And that's the float back in. So this little shaft has got like a ridged end, so you'll put the smooth end through from this side, and then once the ridge hits here, you'll have to slightly tap it in. But that's it. Now we'll just put the bowl back on, which goes, this little arm goes over the little throttle body. So I can get it with one hand. There you go. And now we get our 4 brass screws here, 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 and here back together. It's the carb all cleaned up. So before we start putting it all back in the intakes and stuff, we'll do these 2 pipes here and here, and then we'll do the overflow, which is this one. So that's those 2 pipes and the overflow. Come on, Sprinch. The overflow's there. It's the little pipe on top of the big pipe. So I'm going to get them stuck in, and then we'll go from there. That's these 2 pipes on. The overflow pipe, and I just reconnected the auto choke, and now I'm going to put the throttle cable back on, and then I'll push it back into the intake boot. So the throttle all sorted. Just make sure that when you're putting this back in, that little L shape goes down here and across, and then that just keeps this out of the way. Now we're on to the fuel line. So the first new fuel line that we've stolen off the 180 is the main fuel line to the carb. That one runs around here. I've thrown a fuel filter on there, because even though I'm going to clean this tank out, I'd rather just have, you know, the little safety net of having that. And that one goes into the top of this little thing here. Alright, and then this was already on here, it's not getting changed out, but the bottom one runs down into a T-junction. That T-junction then runs into the top of the intake boot. Now on the 180 there's also a second pipe which runs into the side of the carb, but you don't have that on this one. The other part of the T-junction, or the opposite direction of the T-junction, runs down into the top of this box. So now let's get another line in. Next line is this one, which runs down into the frame and then goes into the bottom of this little transfer or whatever box it is. On to the next one. And the next line was this one, which runs underneath and into the fuel tank, bottom of the fuel tank there. The fuel tank's been cleaned out and I've mounted it up. I've then changed this line out because that was knackered. I've filled up the coolant. We had a little coolant leak, which should be sorted now. I haven't got any more droppings down there. I'm going to throw the airbox and the battery on, and then I'll just put the starter switch and we'll see if we can get it running. Fingers crossed. Absolutely melting. So we'll just take this off, because if it does run, I want to let it burp the coolant once it runs around the system and warms up a bit. If it starts, I don't know if it's going to start or not. I don't know if you need the dash on to start it, but we've got a starter, battery's on, coolant's done, oil, gear oil. See that coolant's leaking again. No, it's still not leaking. All the fuel lines are on, fuel's in there. I guess that just leaves us to try it. Get some fuel in the system because it's bone dry. Right. So fuel might be the problem here. Got a bit of fuel in the filter. Full of fuel. Spark plug caps on. Right, back to the drawing board. Might have to check it for spark. Check it for spark first, and we'll see if we can get it going. We've got a good spark. We're just throwing some start ya down the head. Come on. Come on. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know how long this thing hasn't run for. A little bit of start, yeah. Come on, keep going, girl. Don't cut out now. So that's telling me we've got a fueling problem, because it started using start ya, but it cut out and it won't start again. So we've got a fuel problem. Right. So it's had all the lines on it work because they came off the 180 which run. Which probably leaves it down to one of these little junction boxes, which may be covered. I probably should have cleaned them out. Anything about it. Should have cleaned them out. Maybe this one here, or maybe this junction box under here. So I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for watching. We'll come back to this. I've got other stuff to do, but very hopeful, and we're pretty close to being. I would say we're close to being done with it. It's all the little things add up, but. Realistically, what's left is to paint the sun damaged fairings, the you know, like the sort of the matte coloured fairings, and put it all back together, and obviously make sure it runs consistently. But like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.